Hey friends, it's Abigail Luvisi. Welcome back to Judgment Free Zone. We need vulnerability and empathy now more than ever. I hope you are able to find room for more curiosity, self-compassion, and empathy for yourself and others while you're here. I show up so you can too.
Well, hello, listeners. Welcome to, Untying the Knot for sure, but this may also be on Judgment Free Zone with Abigail Luvisi.
Welcome.
This is Hannah. I have my bestie Abby here.
Hello.
So, we don't know yet if it's going to be on both podcasts or just Untying the Knot, but
Yeah, I haven't decided, guys.
yeah.
So you'll either hear it on my feed too, or you'll only hear it on Hannah's.
Yeah.
So it's cool though. It's good. We're gonna have
Yeah.
a good time. We always have
Yeah.
a good time.
We do. We always do. It's
I
fun.
know Daniel said he's like, I love listening to you and Hannah because we just like know each other so well. And I think that's
Yeah.
why people really love the ones with Daniel and I too.
Yeah.
Is like, you know what I mean? Like, you're my best friend and
It's
Daniel's
just
my
so
husband.
natural. Yeah.
Yeah, we just like talk. So
Yeah.
it's always
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. So if you listen to last week's episode, which came out today technically, it's always confusing trying to like think into the future. When you guys are listening to this, it will be last week's episode, even though I posted it this morning, but whatever. Last week's episode, I told you how Britt is in the last couple weeks before her wedding. And so I'm kind of taking the reins for a few weeks here. And I thought it would be really fun to bring on my bestie, Abby, and talk about podcasting because we have a lot of people. Our podcast, Untying the Knot, has inspired you to start a podcast. Like I helped you start one, Abby. But we also have helped 4 or 5 other women. And I've, just inspired a couple other women.
Well,
and then
and I just want to say too that just for if I do post it on mine, you're a business alignment coach.
yeah.
So just so people understand what side that's coming from is like, this is what you do and this is how
Yeah.
you help people.
Yeah, yeah. And there are so many people, we all have such beautiful, amazing stories. And even if you feel like your story is simple and hasn't been that complicated in life, like you still have value to bring someone. And so this week I just thought it would be really cool to, for those of you who have thought about starting a podcast, which is a lot of people. We've talked to a lot of people who want to have a podcast because, it sounds like fun or whatever. Like they have, all kinds of reasons. The things that hold people back it almost always comes down to time, or like they feel like they're technically challenged and so they won't be able to figure it out.
Well, I also, just before you keep moving on, I want to challenge people's thought too when they do say that like their story, there's nothing to share or it's not as important. Like, I just want to recognize that that's minimizing like your story
Yeah.
and that's shame. And obviously that's what I do. So I got to call it out. I got to call
Exactly.
it out when I see it. But
Exactly.
I just want to challenge those thoughts of like, why are you minimizing your story? And we do that all the time to ourselves, right? We just gaslight
Yeah.
ourselves. So challenge that thought, get curious about it, and do the damn podcast. Anyways, continue.
Anyway, see, this is why having both of us here is so valuable because I'm going to be like, you can do whatever you want. And Abby's going to be like, yeah, because you can overcome these things, and
Exactly.
it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I guess where I would want to start, first of all, Abby, I helped you get your podcast set up. So let's be real. You
Yeah,
had some technical hiccups
for sure.
that you that you
And I'm definitely not technologically advanced in
yeah.
any way, shape, or form. Let's
Yeah.
be real. My kids know how to use the computer better than I do at the end of the day.
Well, and I just remember as we were setting things up, you were like, how does this work? And like this doesn't make any sense. And this is just like not my friend or whatever you were saying about the computer and everything. Just like I remember when we recorded an episode, like you couldn't find the recording or something like that.
I
Like
even remember I even deleted one.
yeah.
I even recorded a podcast with someone and deleted it.
And wasn't it a really good one too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about it was with Katie and we talked about faith transitions, and then we like, this is when I was also like, just to talk about podcasting, I was in this mind headspace that I would only do 20 minutes because I wanted like 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like set on that for some reason. Like I don't
Yeah.
know why. And I know I like, because I wanted people to like want to come back, but honestly, it just hindered me being able to talk openly with people. But that was at the very beginning. So I was like, all right, I need to stop that mindset. Like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna like do it and do it however I want. And so I stopped questioning how long things are going to be. I know you still have, right? Like you still
Yeah.
kind of do certain
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, we
I
still
don't.
do a certain time. And see, and that's the beautiful thing. Like you can do
Right.
it either way. I think Abby, most of your podcasts are what, 45 minutes to an hour or
I
so?
would say anywhere between like 35, 40 minutes to, yeah, an
Yeah.
hour.
And
They kind of vary.
ours are like no longer than 30 minutes most of the time, sometimes like 20 minutes.
Mine are pretty
Um,
deep.
yeah, yours do go pretty deep. And
My podcast is not for very lighthearted.
yeah.
That's also like, that's why I was like, oh, should I like post a podcast post? Like that's not
Yeah.
very like, you know what I mean? That might be like, I feel like that'd be like thrown in there. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
not sure yet.
Yeah. And who knows, like it's just I think podcasting, I guess like the point in saying these things is podcasting is so different. Like
Mm-hmm.
people, if you look at the podcasting world and look at the podcasts that are out there, some of them, there's like some podcasts that go for 2 hours. I literally just listened to a 2 hour podcast yesterday, which is like so unlike me. I usually don't like that long of a podcast, but I was just cleaning and I was just listening and, it worked out. Um, but there's a million different topics. There are funny, lighthearted ones. There's really deep ones like yours. There's educational podcasts. There's just storytelling. There's so many different topics. I'm in a podcasting group on Facebook too. And the topics that people like will post saying, I'm looking for a guest for this, or I can be a guest on this topic. There is literally everything out there. Like
Yeah.
I literally, the women that I've talked to who have wanted to start a podcast but feel like they can't for whatever reason, all of them, like I've seen that same topic in this group, whether you're, a step parent, whether you have, um, like I know someone she was in a car accident and has, shoot, what is it? There's like when you get a really bad concussion, sometimes concussions, they can lead to a like
Like
brain.
amnesia.
Yeah, but not amnesia, but like something similar. Like it's a long-term disorder or whatever
Hmm.
because of the concussion. So like, I mean, you could have a podcast just on that topic and like
Right.
talk to other people, talk to family members of people that deal with that, talk to other, like it can be anything. Like it can literally be anything. It can be long or short. And, there's a space for everyone out there.
Yeah, I think if you're interested in doing a podcast, something that I was encouraged, um, I think I was listening to a podcast about podcasting, and they talked about like writing a list of 100 podcast episodes,
Yeah.
if on the topic that you want to talk about. And so that's what I did, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then on top of that, what I did too was I wrote a list of everyone that I wanted on my podcast,
Yeah.
big and small.
Yeah.
So people who I was really inspired by, that I was like dreaming that like how cool would it be if I could have these people on my podcast someday, or just people that I follow, or that, you know what I mean, have more of a following like myself. And
Yeah.
you'd be surprised like how many people who even do have big followings will come on your podcast and
Yeah.
talk with you. I
Yeah.
mean, I know you've had some really big people
Mhm.
on yours.
Yeah, we've had Tiffany Chung who has like 82,000 followers and she
Right.
was honored to come on. Like I was blown away. I don't know what episode number that is, but it's a really good one, guys. So go find it and listen to it. Um
Yeah.
we had a photographer who's a single mom. Tiffany's also a single mom, a business owner, and a photographer who's a single mom with like 30 something thousand followers. Like it just goes to show that, just because someone has a lot of followers, they're just regular people still,
Right.
like they're not like someone intimidating. Like they were
Yeah.
both honored to come on. They were so excited to share their story and share their um expertise and their wisdom and their advice.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just really fun, honestly. I think that's what it always like that's what it has come down to for me. It has not been like you you hear these podcasts that are huge podcasts, like, have millions of downloads and whatever, and it's a huge production, which, makes sense. Like what we do, Abby, as like podcast hosts, but also editors, and like we are podcast managers and we're podcast directors. Like there are some podcasts that have individual people for
Yep.
all of these things.
Yep.
And that stops people oftentimes because
Yeah, no, I don't edit any, like,
yeah,
there are people who like, I mean, every once in a while I'll edit, because again, I go deeper on things, so I'll edit names
yeah.
out, which already is annoying. I'm like, damn it, like I said a name, like I gotta go in
I know I did that
and
the other day.
delete it. But honestly, I'm getting to the point where again, like when things are new, you're like scared and you
Yeah,
don't know anything and you feel like it's overwhelming. Well, like let's just put that and say it what it is. Like, isn't that with anything new that
yeah,
you start? Right? Like that's the thing. It's new. You don't know what it's gonna be. You don't know. And like, let's be real, like nobody's really listening to me right now. Like, I'm not like this big, like, hundred thousands of people are following and
yeah,
listening to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, give yourself a break and give yourself some self-compassion. Like the people who are gonna need to hear it are gonna hear it.
yeah.
And
And
that's
I
like where I've been like tuning in myself is like those people are what matter right now,
yeah.
not the big numbers. Like I'm doing this for me.
Right. Well, you're doing it for the people that want to hear it and that need to hear it. And the other thing too, I think both of our podcasts have been successful because of our like raw realness on it.
Right.
Just the little things like, some there are a lot of podcasters that edit out every or edit out every pause or edit out all of these things that make the conversation that make the conversation what it is. Like that's just normal when you're talking to someone, you don't sound like a robot. Like I heard whose podcast was it? I think it was Meghan Markle's maybe. I heard like her intro and she sounds like a robot. I'm like, who wants to listen to that? Maybe you do, I don't know, but
I don't know.
I'm the kind like when I listen to a podcast, I want it to feel like I'm in the room with that person. I don't want it to feel like I'm like I don't know, being preached to.
No, that's
And
probably the biggest compliment I've gotten from my
yeah,
podcast over and over again is what I hear
and
from people is like they tell me all the time, like it sounds like you're just on the couch
yeah,
talking to someone, like you would never know. And I highly value that and I appreciate that so much that people feel that way, that
yeah,
you think that you're just sitting in the room with me listening in on the conversation.
yeah,
And if you have listened to mine, I do say and like a lot.
yeah,
And excited
yeah.
and all the things.
I know, I know. I realized I say I think a lot, which I almost said it again. I think is interesting that I say I think a lot. But I think there I go again. I think now I'm gonna be
Oh
self-conscious
my
about
gosh.
saying I
No,
think.
no, no, don't. That's
But
good.
honestly, we part of the reason that we have that you have a top 10% podcast in I think it was 3 months is when we saw that it had become top
Yeah,
10%.
what it's October 4th. I started May 26th, I think May
Yeah.
26th or May 27th. So
Yeah. And
June,
it's been
July,
at least a
August,
month
September. Yeah, so
since we
4
saw.
months.
And
Yeah.
and
So who
our
knows where I'm at
podcast,
now?
I know I looked at it the other day because I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm excited for him to go up.
Yeah, I know. It's so exciting.
But we're just it's not a big production. That's something I really feel stops people is they think it needs to be a big production. They think it needs to be perfect. I know for me, I didn't realize the perfectionism that I like
Mm.
felt until it came to podcasting and I listened to myself talk and are a lot of things that I say, or like the way that I talk, that at the beginning it was kind of uncomfortable for me to listen to myself. And now like my voice doesn't annoy me anymore. Like my voice, listening to myself and listening to our conversations and the way that I speak, and when I kind of stutter or when I repeat myself or when I talk in circles, like that's just who I am and how I talk. And you know, it's been really just a fun journey and a beautiful journey and a lot of healing in that too, like
Yeah.
accepting me for who I am,
Yeah, absolutely.
which I,
Yeah, and again, like I think we just hold ourselves back. I obviously was blessed with the fact that I do know you and you
yeah,
did already do it yourself, so I was able to get a ton of help from you. Um, but at the end of the day, like if I really wanted to do it, like YouTube anything.
yeah, yeah,
Like YouTube I can tell you anything and how to
everything.
do everything. Like, yeah, sure, would it have taken me more time? Like, yes. Like, would it probably have been frustrating and annoying? It
Yes.
already was. So, and I had help, but that's the thing is like you could either pay somebody to help you if you have that ability, which is cool, do it, or if you don't, like research it
Yeah.
or hire Hannah. So
Yeah.
that's what it
Or
is,
that.
you know what I mean?
The
So,
the other thing I wanted to talk about too is people tell me that they don't have time, that it's going to take too much time. And part of that has to do with the production part of it. They think that it's going to take a lot of time to edit and all of that. And I thought we should talk about that because, as you guys know, on Untying the Knot, I'm a single mom. I have my own business. I have limited time, really. Like, I work during the day and then I'm present with Amberly in the afternoon. So, the timing, especially at the beginning when we started the podcast, I was also in school full time. Literally, I think I was enrolled in 16 or 17 college courses that were all very difficult. And timing, Abby, if you want to share
yeah, I
your
can.
stuff.
I mean, let me just lay out my day, man. Like for real. No, again, before I say anything about my day, at the end of the day, no pun intended. At the end of the day, you make time for what you want and what's
Yeah.
important to you. Like that's it. Okay, so do it, don't do it. I want to inspire you that you absolutely can if it's on your heart.
Yeah.
My day consists of a lot. I mean, I have 4 kids, 3 the same age, and a preteen, which has been a lot the
Yeah.
last few weeks. Honestly, that's just like a whole nother thing in story, but it's cool. I got a husband, and I'm getting my life coaching certification right now, and that takes a lot of time. um, I also am in school myself and finishing that up. I also run and have made a successful business for myself before, and doing lashes and permanent makeup. So I still run that business while starting my new life coaching business. Um, in the last 6 weeks, I have also added on um, to doing groups and one-on-ones. So I have 2 groups currently on Tuesdays and Thursdays, of women. We meet via Zoom, and that takes time and preparation and a lot of behind the scenes work. Just setting up for those and being prepared for that. Uh, and the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot on top
Yeah.
of like just, daily life,
Yeah.
lunches and
Yeah.
making sure the home is put together and making sure my self-care and I'm getting my needs met on top of my therapy that I do. Like I am very, very busy.
Yeah. And if it wasn't important to you, then you wouldn't find the time for it. But it is important to you and you enjoy it. And that's something else with podcasting. If you don't enjoy it for any reason, then you shouldn't do it, because that's just going to come through. That's with anything in life.
Right.
If you don't feel good about it, like, it's going to come through and it's going to affect other areas of your life. But I think because we're both so passionate about our podcast and about what we talk about and do, we figure out the time to make it work, but we also have like created podcasts that are not high maintenance, and you can choose to do that if it's important
Yeah.
to you and you want to figure out how to make the time. You can make it a podcast that you can either have shorter episodes if that's what works for you. You can just not edit it if that's what works for you. We both have pre-recorded intros and outros, so we just upload the 3 audio. I'm sure that's how you still do it. That's how I
Yeah.
do it. Just upload
Mhm.
the intro, the episode itself, and then the outro to Anchor, and type in a little something about what the episode's about,
And most of the
and
time I
good to
just
go.
copy and paste like I'm not really
Yeah.
big. I'm high quality, low maintenance.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. That's a great
I
way that's a great way to describe it.
yeah, like I feel like I put my all into the conversations I do, which are super high quality. Other than
Mhm.
that, I'm like, I'm done. Like, I usually will listen back to it. Um, but honestly, it's because my husband likes to listen to it with me.
Yeah.
And so we will listen to it together before, and I'll get his input on it. And
Nice.
that's just because I do talk about heavier things. I
Yeah.
usually get his input if I need to edit or add something. But again, if it's usually editing, it's because I'm listening for names,
Yeah.
is my biggest reason, just because I do share deeper things.
Some deep things. Yeah. So I guess just let this be an inspiration to you that if you want to start a podcast, then you totally can.
Hmm.
Like you totally can.
Yeah. I used to write, like my whole outline. And again, like because of my own perfectionism, I felt like it needed to be a certain way, right? Like I'm a very like check the box off, do this, do that. It has to look a certain way. And again, in the beginning, we're already like so stressed and hard on ourselves. And now I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
And it's only been 4 months. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like probably actually like month 2. I was like, all right, fuck it.
I'm
Like
over this.
I'm over it. Like why am I stressing myself out? Like I just want
Yeah.
to have fun and enjoy the conversation and see where it goes. And that has been freeing for me.
Yeah, no, we have done the same thing. It's funny, at the very beginning, we started totally open, and we found ourselves just like so confused in the
Mm,
conversation and what was happening. Britt and I were also just barely getting to know each other at the time. So
yeah.
that was an interesting mix in the beginning of our podcast. We didn't have just like a natural conversation like you and I do, obviously.
Right.
So that was a piece and that's something else. Starting a podcast, you can do it by yourself and have guests, or just talk on your own, or you can find someone to do it with. And
Yeah.
there's so many there's you could
Whatever you want.
again, you can do whatever you want.
It's your podcast.
It's your podcast. But we started just totally everywhere, and it was a disaster. And so then we reined it in, and then we ended up actually going like the opposite direction and having a really strict outline, and it felt like it felt like robotic. It just felt weird. And so then for a little while, we had like a rough outline of like a few things that we wanted to make sure that we talked about. And now it's pretty much like what you and I just did before this episode. Basically, I was like, okay, so this is kind of what I'm thinking, the direction that we'll head. Like, sound good? And Abby's like, yeah, it's the same thing with Britt. We're just kind of like, okay, we think we're going to talk about like this. Like, this sounds like a good topic. Okay, cool. And we just press record and go
Yep.
for it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, again, that, part of that has to do with the perfectionism. At the beginning, you want people to want to come back. You want people to enjoy listening to it. And so you try to do everything that the articles say or that the other podcasters say. But at the end of the day, I truly feel like you want to create a podcast that you want to listen to. And
Hmm.
that's really what matters, I think. Doing
Hmm.
something that you would want to listen to, and then the people that need to hear it and want to hear it will show up.
Yeah. No, I agree. And something I do, just for people who are obviously looking to start their own, I do send out an outline to my people who are coming on my and I didn't know that when I started, but then I went on someone else's podcast and they did that to me, and I really liked that and appreciated that.
Yeah.
And basically I kind of like how we still at the beginning of the podcast, kind of say like, oh, this is the direction we're going, just like you and I did. I just also I kind of have a conversation again, because mine is deeper. I kind of get to know them before, like we'll message
Mhm.
each other back and forth, and I'll ask them like what they're passionate about and what they want to kind of lead the direction that we go in. And so I ask them where they're leading, but I lead it, if that makes
Nice.
sense. So
Yeah.
like I want to know what they want to end with, and I guide that conversation. So I'll send them a couple pinpoints that I know we're going to talk about, and then we move on. And
There you
that's
go.
how I do the outline. So,
There you go. Again, so
yeah.
many ways to do it.
Yeah.
We haven't had a guest on in a while, but I usually will do a rough outline just to kind of let the guest know what to expect. But it's very brief. It's like, okay, you're, an expert in this topic, or you have experience in this topic, so we'll just
Yeah, I have
go
them
with that.
send me like their bio and their
Oh,
picture, and
yeah, we haven't done
just
that.
so that I have that, because I usually will put the bio, like that's what, again, high quality, low maintenance. So that's usually what I'll put their bio in, like
The show notes.
yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and our show notes, we do like one or two sentences of just like a summary of what the episode is, or like the topic that it is, and then we copy paste all the links to the different social media
Yeah, I do
and
that too.
everything.
Yep.
So, yeah, high
Yeah.
quality, low maintenance. I think that's such a great way to describe it.
Yes.
So, if you are inspired to start a podcast, and if that's something that you want to do, then, like I said, I've already helped multiple people start podcasts. So, I'm more than willing to brainstorm some ideas and, help you out.
And if you need to overcome your shame in it, I got your back.
There you go. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Whether you're on
Yes.
Untying the Knot or Judgment Free Zone, what do you think? Is this going to go on yours or no?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we're gonna go record another podcast together right now. So
Yeah, we'll see
we'll
how that goes.
see. Yeah.
Awesome. All
All
right. Well,
right.
we'll talk to you later.
Bye. Thanks, friends, for listening in. If you found this helpful, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. If you'd like to be more involved in our community, hop over to Instagram and find me at Abigail Luvisi. Keep showing up. I will too. See you next time.